this is what worries me. It worries me that people can come into a place like this. Can come into a church, any church, it doesn't matter what church it is. They can come in and sit down on a pew or chair, and they can begin to go through the motions of doing church. Right? So when someone tells them they should come to worship, they check the box off. And maybe when they're here, they say, we need to pray. So when the Lord's Prayer comes up, they read it along with everyone else, and they pray, check the prayer box off. Maybe the offering plates are passed out, and they check the giving box. Maybe even they've been asked to go to a small group. They show up to a small group, people are nice, it's not horrible, they check that box off. Someone might have even asked them to go on a mission trip where they go off and they serve other people, and it's a good experience. You know, they feel good about themselves afterwards, but nothing life transformational. But they checked that box off. And eventually, they just find themselves going through the motions, checking off the boxes that the people in the church say, this is what you're supposed to do. But over a period of time, they keep coming back, and nothing happens. The peace that they were promised, that they would experience, it just never comes. Their life doesn't seem any simpler, doesn't seem any better. They just don't see what all the hype was about, so they just stop coming. Maybe they come for Easter, maybe they come for Christmas Eve, just to make sure that they haven't missed out on something, but they never find that peace that they were looking for. What really bothers me is that somewhere along the way, nobody ever told them. It's not about just checking off the boxes. It's not about just going through the motions. It has to do primarily with your motivation. The motivation behind why we do what we do. I learned recently about motivations the hard way a few years ago. When I moved up here to Dallas, I began to work in an office. And while I was working in an office, it was about this time of year, right before Christmas, that someone began to tell me about this foreign concept called Secret Santa. Now, I had no idea what Secret Santa was all about. And in case you haven't worked in an office before, I'll explain to you a little bit about how it works. See, somebody draws your name randomly, and they give you gifts throughout the month of December without letting you know who it is that's getting you the gifts. And so the way it worked in my office is they'd hand out sheets of paper, and you'd write your name at the top. And then they'd ask you a series of questions about, some of the things that you might like. So one of them was like, what's your favorite color? I'd write out blue. And one of the questions might be, what's your favorite candy? Well, I like Skittles or, something like that. Then they say, what's your favorite music? And so I'd write down, like my favorite Christian artist for the day or some rock group. Then they'd ask me, what's your favorite beverage? If you ever worked in an office before, anything with caffeine. So, Coke or Starbucks. Anything like that would work. So I filled out the form and I sent it in, and somebody randomly drew my name. Now, a few weeks passed. All of my office workers had been getting gifts. As a matter of fact, one girl got a dozen freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. I was so envious of that gift. And then a few days later, another office worker got a gift card to Starbucks, and she was able to go get a coffee during her break. And I still hadn't gotten anything. But then one day I finally walked up to my desk, and there was a Snickers bar waiting for me. Snickers. I didn't write down Snickers on my form. It's like this person wasn't even paying attention to what I wrote down. But there is still a few weeks left, and I knew she still had a few moments, a few days to redeem herself, and there was still an opportunity for a better gift. All she had to do was look at the list. And so, sure enough, about a week later, I got a package on my desk, but this time it was wrapped. And I opened it up, and there was a Kenny G CD. Kenny G. I don't like Kenny G. I didn't write down Kenny G. And I began to get worried that this secret Santa thing was not going to work out very well. And my office workers assured me, look, just hold out. On the very last day of work, where there's a big Christmas party, everybody gets the big gift. So just hold out. She still has an opportunity to give you the big gift. So, sure enough, the very last day of work, before the Christmas holidays, and I got a large gift. Now I'm excited because you learn when you're 5 years old that the best gifts are large gifts. And so I unwrap it. And there it was. This great display of 5 shot glasses with a different flavor beverage to go inside of each shot glass. Now, a little side note, I don't really like alcohol. Never liked the taste of it. Just not my thing. And I was completely convinced at this point that this lady had purposely gotten me the exact opposite thing of everything that I had written down on the list. But then I had one of those moments of brilliance. Those moments that come very few in a lifetime. When I realized that I was about to go home for Christmas and I didn't have any gifts for anybody yet. And you know what? My mom's favorite candy is Snickers. And my dad, well, he loves Kenny G. My sister collects shot glasses, and well, let's just say she's a pretty big fan of most things that go in them. And I realized that all I had to do was to put a new label on these gifts that I didn't really want and bring them home for Christmas. So that's exactly what I did. I came home with bags in tow. Christmas morning came around, and they all opened their gifts, and they loved them. My mom felt a little gypped that all she got was a Snickers, but overall, everyone loved them. And then something came out of my mouth, and I still don't know where it came from. It just happened that I said something like, I sure am glad that y'all enjoy those gifts a whole lot better than I did when I first got them. It was like a light switch. They went from loving their gifts to not liking them whatsoever. When they realized that my primary motivation for giving them gifts had more to do with getting rid of gifts that I didn't really want than giving them gifts that they might truly appreciate. My motivation was completely wrong. You see, motivation is extremely important to us, but it's also extremely important to God. The scripture for today comes from Matthew chapter 6. We're still in the Sermon on the Mount. And it says in verse 1, going through verse 6, beware of practicing your piety before others in order to be seen by them. For then you have no reward from your Father in heaven. So whenever you give alms, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may be praised by others. Now truly I tell you, they've received their reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be done in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. And truly I tell you, they've received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And then skipping to verse 16. And whenever you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces so as to show others that they are fasting. Truly I tell you, they received their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that your fasting may be seen not by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Now, the very first thing that he says in verse 1 is to beware. Beware, to watch out for, pay attention to your motivations. Look, when you look at the Pharisees, when they're giving money, they sound trumpets for everyone to see what they're doing. And it's all about them. Look, they received their reward right there and then. But when you give money, when you help other people, do it in secret. And in secret, your Father will see you. And in secret, your Father will reward you. And then he says the same thing about praying. Look, the Pharisees pray. Look, there's certain times of day when everyone prays, but they made sure that whenever it was time to pray, that they were in the busiest street corners for everyone to see. And they would stand up and say, "Look at me and how wonderful I pray." Look, they've received all the reward they're going to get right then and then. When you pray, do it in secret. Because what you do in secret, your Father sees. When you pray in secret, your Father will reward you. And when you fast, do the same thing. When the Pharisees fast, they make sure that everybody knows that they're fasting. Everybody knows just how miserable they are, how they haven't eaten. When you fast, make sure you have a joyous spirit. Make sure that nobody knows that you're fasting. Do it in secret. What you do in secret, your Father sees. What you do in secret, God will reward you for. So beware. Beware of your motivations. Watch out for your motivations behind why you do the things you do. Are you doing it for everyone to see what you've done? If that's the case, then you've received all the rewards you're going to get. But if you do the things out of the right motives, you do it in secret, and that's when God will reward you.